Hi, this is Dr. Jackie Gardner-Nix. I specialize in chronic pain management and particularly mindfulness. So today, this is April 17th, 2020. We are still doing shelter in place as the pandemic continues to occupy the world. And so things are very different still as we are finding all sorts of other ways to live our lives, different from the ways before when we had our routines that we were so used to. One of the things that occurred to me is that we're getting a glimpse of what it's like to have a disability that prevents us from moving about as much as all the other people we see in society, and it particularly comes home to us when we lose those abilities. I like to call them diffabilities because it just is different, but I would prefer that we look on others who have those diffabilities as having many other qualities. Just now, as they move into that diffability, understanding what they lost, but seeing that others don't really understand that. And now we're beginning to glimpse that a little bit as our freedoms are reducing and we're having to be more at home, unable to go out and do some of the things we took for granted. So I'm wondering about going on a virtual walk today so that we can all be included. Some of us do go on a regular walk each day despite being in the shelter in place situation. And we are encouraged to do so as long as we stay at least 2 meters away from others and do it at least, say, once a day, but not too much. And so we can start by imagining that we are choosing the clothing to put on before we go out for that walk. We may have checked that the weather is quite cold today, maybe 1 degree, maybe 2 degrees centigrade. And so we may be choosing some warm boots, a jacket under our coat, maybe a hat. I tend to use glasses which darken in response to sunlight as I'm a migraine sufferer. And so having checked that I'm dressed warmly and that I've picked up my keys, I'll exit from my front door. I have gloves on. I'll lock the front door. And then my choice is to go around my very tidy little subdivision in Port Hope. It's a quiet place to walk. The ground under my feet is even, so I can spend more time looking up and around and appreciating the look of each house, which is so different from the next one, appreciating the front yards, appreciating looking at the vehicles that are still parked in the driveway as opposed to the garages. So I set off up the hill outside of my house, passing the other houses left and right, walking, feeling the ground under my feet, noticing that my feet feel quite comfortable in the boots that I've selected, appreciating that the ground is even, not likely to trip me up. And a fleeting thought passes that somebody designed that sidewalk. Somebody made that sidewalk smooth for me to walk along. I hear my feet on the ground as I walk. I look from side to side and I appreciate how neat and colorful, although muted colors, that the houses are. Each front yard tells me something about the homeowner. Some of them tell me that the homeowner is pretty interested in gardening, in nurturing their plants. Others perhaps don't get an A+, but they get a B or a B+ for having their yards looking neat, full of plants which are easy to nurture, requiring a bit less effort. And like me, perhaps they're kind of busy, and so they do the best they can. I'm walking up a hill. I'm appreciating walking up a hill and that I can walk up a hill. I notice that my breath is becoming a little deeper and my heart rate is going up just a little. So appreciating that my body is acclimatizing to that increased effort and helping. My whole body, mind, working together to walk up that hill and make it possible. And again, I appreciate that I can. I might stop for a moment or two, perhaps to catch my breath, yes, and also to look again at yet another yard and appreciate that the flowers are coming up, the daffodils and the hyacinths. And they're further on in some yards than others, and some don't have them at all. But so appreciating that they're reaching up towards the sun, which is present today. They're doing their best. They're bringing us more color. It's good to see them announcing the start of spring. I go on further past the houses, walking. And I get to the top of the hill. And then I make a choice as to which direction I plan to go in. And some of that decision is around who I see coming toward me, perhaps with their dog. So I might choose a route which doesn't have to go past them to preserve that physical distancing. But if I do, I just step out into the quiet road, very few cars. So I can do that, and I appreciate that. And we smile at each other, maybe say, hi, how are you? Typically, that's what Canadians do. And we walk on past each other, but with plenty of social and physical distancing, even ensuring that the dog that they might be walking is not close enough to jump up at me. Again, I have to physical distance from those animals. We all do. Walking on, perhaps choosing to now go down the hill and towards a track which goes behind the houses and away from the golf course, which we're lucky enough to live close to for all its beautiful views. And as I choose that track to go down, and it is downhill, I look to my left and I see the railway track, which for us is something we really love because we hear the trains in our house, but quite muted because our house is pretty well soundproofed from external noise. So you just hear enough. I look at the train track and beyond it, the lake, luxuriating in the fact that I can see the trees and the grass and the train track. And if I'm lucky, maybe a train will come past. It might be a goods train, a very long one, or a passenger train. Not too many passengers on it nowadays. And I might get a chance to wave, which I do when I have my grandchildren's children to stay, and we stand at the track until a train goes past, and we wave. And they jump up and down excitedly. Back into the present moment again, because they're not with me at the moment. And turning to walk up the hill behind the houses. And to my left, there's this expanse of lawn and trees belonging to an estate that is behind our house. And the amazing thing there is the bird sounds. We hear them every morning as we wake in this springtime. they're really noisy and really active and really wonderful. They're making their nests. They're flying about in flocks and somehow leading each other in that flock to perch on certain trees. And they stay and they seem to watch and they seem to talk amongst themselves before someone in that flock flies off again to another tree, and off they all go. So just standing for a few moments and watching that and listening to that, somewhat in awe, and also appreciating that I'm giving myself the time to do that. Time that so often isn't available when we're working full time and doing other things and on the computer and seeing to our grandchildren and our children, and not necessarily carving out that sort of time in the day. And now a dog walker is coming towards me, and I choose strategically to move a little bit to one side so that we've got plenty of room between us. I notice the dog is on the leash, so I feel safe to walk past. And we greet each other. Hi, how are you? I'm fine, how are you? We're doing good, thank you. And I walk on past, up the hill. Breathing more heavily again as I take the incline. Noticing my heart rate speed up. I get to the top of the hill. I turn to my right. And as I walk past the houses on the slightly busier road, and only slightly, only a few cars going past, I check out the yards again and the plants and the lawns, which are now greening up with the spring. I notice the occasional lawn which is artificial turf, and I marvel at how realistic it looks. I can sort of tell because the turf is greener than the other. It looks very well manicured and mown, but I know different that somebody manufactured that. Somebody quite brilliant, and marketed it for those homeowners that didn't want to ever mow a lawn again, but liked the green look. And I appreciate all the skills that are represented around me. I check out the cars in the driveways too as I walk past and choose the one I would otherwise like, usually one I can't afford. But I enjoy it as I walk past and I look at the color and the shape and the wheel hubs, and yeah, I kind of appreciate them. And then walking up the hill to the crest again, making a choice. Is it time to walk back to my home? And as I do so, going past the mailboxes, sort of new to me because for so much of my life, mail has been posted through slots into my home directly or put in a mailbox that's just outside my front door. But here we have communal boxes. So we remember to take our keys with us and remove the mail from the box. And I have a bag with me into which I put that mail because I know it has to be kind of incubated for a bit when I get home. I won't be opening it for a couple of days, just in case somebody has touched it who has COVID. And we do know that some of these viruses can sit on that paper for a while before degrading and degenerating. So that's how I'm handling my mail. I walk up to my house, appreciating that I'm one of the B+ front yards, but still appreciating it's pretty tidy. It's beginning to show those signs of spring. The daffodils are coming through the earth. Maybe that some of them are tulips too, probably left over from the planting from the previous year. I notice the brown of the bushes, but I know that they'll be coming back soon, which is such a marvel. And then I let myself in with my keys. I'm careful in how I take off my coat, my boots. I place them in an area where they can sort of wait to let go of any virus that might have been picked up on my feet, on the soles of my boots. Take my gloves off. And I go and wash my hands very thoroughly, just as being demonstrated on the news and various YouTube channels. I sort of knew most of it just from being a physician anyway, and having worked in ORs occasionally in my distant past. So very careful. I shake the letters out from the bag and place the plastic bag I took for them in the garage. I take the paper from inside the envelopes and shake those onto a clean surface and throw the envelopes in the blue box. And then I wash my hands very thoroughly again, because this time I am using the mail straight away. Otherwise, I might leave it for a few days. And then I just remember what I went through on that walk, and I check in with my body to see how it feels right now. It feels like my circulation has been stirred. It feels like my brain has been given a rest from the computer and the work of the day. It feels good. I notice my body is feeling better. What I mean by better is less sluggish, perhaps. Because when I think about what better means, I need to just explore that a little bit further. And then I just go back to my day, doing the work that I've chosen to do. That was my walk. For some of you, the virtual walk. And I hope we all enjoyed it together.